Hello, this is Max Drake. I want to talk about NotebookLM in a specific use case I have. But first of all, I actually just want to talk generally about using AI and also the file types for actually doing some of the research that you're going to be doing. And it's particularly relevant for this particular one and the use case that I have. So first of all, there's an example. So NotebookLM is something that you can actually come through. You can actually bring in your own source of files through here. We'll add a source and we'll just upload a file, any old file, that one there will do. And we can also go and connect to a website. You can connect to some websites, I should say. So we can add another source and we're just going to go for a web. I think I can actually just bang that in there and do it. So these are the sources that we use. Now we'll talk about this MD file type here, and I just want to use an example of another website through here. And it's not that much that I know about, but I know that I can actually do, I have thought about it on my website. And that is some websites load up quite good and other ones have this information URL not found. Please check the URL and try again. So some they block you. So inside of, I use WordPress websites. Inside there you can, I think you can have a file in the top area called robot.php. And in there you can suddenly say, I don't want anybody to be able to come in and scrape my website. So it stops things like the AI coming through and actually just reading your stuff. So some websites you can actually link through and do things to, and other ones you can't. So you can add your sources and then you can query a specific source. So you can have 20 files or 30, I think the maximum is something like 50 or something, but I'm not too sure how many you can load up for the free version. And then the other one, I think, is 200 for the free version. It's something like 50. But you don't actually have to use all of the sources all at once. You can actually just choose specific ones that you're using. So that's where you can actually research your own thing. So I can come in here and I say which clause for domestic file rating, and it will go through, look through that website and come through and pick that, say, come through and give something through there. Boom. So you can do these sorts of chats. Another thing which you can do this, I think you can create an explainer video. You can do an audio overview, whereas if you've done a whole lot of research or you've got something like that, this is just another example. If you've got a book you're thinking of reading and it's an EPUB or something like that, you can pull it in. You can actually go and say, give me a review of this book or whatever, and you can and say possibly, in a couple of paragraphs and stuff like that. And then you can actually make a little audio overview through here, and it can be something like a podcast that you can do, or a brief critique, a bite-sized overview, a thoughtful debate or something like that, and then you can actually listen to that on your traffic jam. So if you're a drive to work or something like that. So it's good because it's actually using the resources, so it's actually very pertinent to what your particularly topic or subject area is. It's not going through and look at the general model, it's looking at specific data that you're actually doing. So it's quite a good tool to use. Now I want to step back and talk about file size. So the example that I want to use, I saw this guy demonstrating his video. So he's into Apple and AI's stuff and things like that. So, if we go through, if we got this one here, building work, the file size is 9,600 kilobytes. So it's a PDF file and it's a bit of a code of something. And if I go and look through at the markdown equivalent of this file, it's only 300 kilobytes. Now, I'm going to demonstrate what he actually had with this. So in here, I've got an Excel file through here. I'm just going to delete that, and I'm just going to delete that. Oh, sorry. I don't know where the other one is. Doesn't matter. So this is an Excel file, and if we just look at the Excel file, it's just got a few simple tables in it. So there's a bit of tables through here, and then Excel files are designed so that, or this particular file site is designed so that we can visualize information in a spreadsheet format and get information out of it. And we use it inside Excel, and I think G Sheets reads XLSX file types as well. So it's the XLSX file type is a spreadsheet format. So if I do this with it, sorry, I'm going to copy V, and I go and modify the extension. So instead of XLSX, we change it into a zip, and then it doesn't like it doing that. And then we extract all, and we're going to extract it, and we're going to replace the file in there. I've done this before. So inside here, you suddenly think it isn't just one file, it's a whole lot of subdirectories and an awful lot of things happening. The actual worksheets inside there, so the tabs on the worksheet, this is where the information is set inside an XML formatted file. So whereas you think, I always thought an XLS file was just a single file, so you open it up and it would just have tables in there, but in fact it doesn't. It has all this complex structure in behind, doing formatting and pointing to a whole load of other things. Not too sure how the photo's done, but it's a standard document going through there. Same with a PDF. Inside a PDF file, you've actually got you know, like a Word file. With a Word file, you can actually have a document. Other people can come on and do revisions. Other people can come onto those revisions and edit those revisions. You can hide all those revisions in the back and you can just see the finalized document. So there's a lot of things happening in the background. With PDFs, you can go in and put comments. In fact, you can do other little windows where you can have 3D ones going through. You can do markup and you can color over and you can highlight. You can modify the text and things. So PDF files also have an awful lot of complicated stuff in them as well. I came across this article here, Markdown versus PDF for AI, why Markdown reduces token usage by 95%. So here's got a technical manual which has 50 pages in it. When it's actually done inside of OpenAI GPT-4, it uses 58,000 tokens, PDF tokens, to read that, whereas the Markdown tokens is only 4,200. So it's using 93% less tokens. So you've got a saving through there. So that's because, and so what you can do is you can convert your files from a PDF or an XLS file into a Markdown file, because if you actually put it, you link in your NotebookLM and you put in an Excel file, it's actually having to drill into all of those other files, folder structures and everything like that to actually just get the data. So this is sort of human readable, but what we're trying to do with Markdown is to convert it into machine readable. So Markdown is extremely close to plain text with minimal markup or formatting, but still provides a way of represent important document structure. Mainstream LLMs, large language models, such as OpenAI's GPT 4.0, natively speak Markdown and often incorporate Markdown into their responses unprompted. This suggests that they have been trained on vast amounts of Markdown formatted text and understand it as well. A side benefit, Markdown conventions are also highly token efficient, so therefore it's able to process them a lot more quickly. So in that example, which I actually said, and I showed you the two files, the PDF file, which was 9,600 kilobytes, and the Markdown one, which was only 300. It's going to read a thing. So if you query a document that's 9,600 long and you're suddenly saying, well, in that document, what about this? It's got to upload the whole, ingest the whole document and then go through and see how it answers that specific question. But if it's only ingesting 300 kilobytes, it's doing it a lot faster. So what is actually happening in the end is actually taking a PDF file or something like that. If there's images, and I'm not too sure with tables as to whether it actually converts tables or not, but if there's images and things like that, or sketches or diagrams or things, it doesn't do any of those. So it wasn't going to read it in the PDF, and it doesn't do it in the Markdown, but it actually speeds it up by a phenomenal amount of time. So when I first started to look at this, I thought, oh, well, I better start doing some conversion from all of these different file types into Markdown. So I found this library for Python where it's called Markdown, and it uses that library to actually convert files from PDF across to the thing. And I can point where to get the file and where to actually put the file. Then I actually found on this GitHub, this is the repository where it is. And if we look at this repository, which is this one here, and you can download the stuff for actually getting the scripts that you want, but it can convert from PDF, PowerPoint, Word, Excel, images, audio, HTML, text-based formats. Although I've actually converted a couple of CSV files, and they end up being bigger in Markdown than what they are in text-based, because it kind of puts frames around. The CSV is basically just an Excel file, but it's comma-separated values. And inside of the Markdown, it actually puts the cell borders in and stuff like that, so that it's sort of easier for them to read. And it can do zip files and YouTube URLs and EPUBs and a lot more. So that's a bit complicated, and I actually talked to my son, and he was interested in doing something like this, and I said, well, convert your files to Markdown. Now, I found this, I don't know where I found this, and it rather upsets me that I can't find the reference to it anymore, but there was this Markdown GUI. So this is just a zip file, and inside the zip file there's a .exe file, and I'll leave a link to this in the comments in my in the YouTube video. So in here, we can actually just take a file, and we're going to take this one here. It's about half the size. And we drop the files. You can do a folder, or you can add a whole load of files so it processes quite a few. And then you can actually, I'm just exporting it to download through there. Cancel. Oh, sorry, let's change folder. And then I'll go. Oh, wait a minute, no, it's already done that one. So we'll do, that's a small one. We'll do that one there. And we'll say ready. So it's saying ready. It's done two save that's done already since it's doing through here. It's converting the file, and then it's done it. I don't know where the details of it are, but it'll actually be in that folder through there. So that's just converted that through there. So if we just go into downloads and just go date modified, now there we are, the B1 structures one. So it's come through, and it's 43 kilobytes, and the original file size was 607. So it's taken a file which is 607 kilobytes and converted it into 47 for kilobytes through there. So that's quite nice. So as I said, I'll leave a link through for that, for what it's doing. So the actual use case that I actually have for this is, as a designer, we, as an architect and a designer, we end up having a lot of restrictions. There's things like how you can use the land and what you can put on the land. So there's a district plan that says what you can do with that particular bit of land, and if you put a building on it, how far from the boundaries it can be, and all sorts of things, and drainage, and rainfall and slippages and all sorts of stuff. And then there's a whole load of code requirements. So if we actually just go back to the code, you'll see, why is it stuck on that? There's all these different parts of the code. Why is it doing that? Which to do with general provisions, energy saving, services, facilities, something like toilets, because you just don't want to drain out the back of the toilet and actually have a whole load of fecal matter around, such that you can get cholera and things like that. So it's sort of health and safety and those sorts of things. And then the safety from falling, moisture of the fabric, etc., access for disabled people, and routes through things, protection from fire. So there's a whole lot of things that they legislate against, and trying to wade through all of those things. Now, what I find as a designer, as you're designing, you do your preliminary design, and you're sort of saying to the client, this is generally what we're going to do. Then we're going to have to go through and comply with all of these restrictions that we need to make sure that it meets all the standards that we do. Now, one thing as a designer that I like doing is, as I'm going through and designing, I suddenly think, oh, what about that? Or what about that? Or what about that particular thing? And one of the questions which I actually had quite early on was, to do with some staircases. So they were outside staircases, and is there a minimum width? And I wasn't too sure. So, and if so, which part of the code? So I've got the general code to do with access going through. There was a brands one which actually just talked about the shape of stairs and what you needed to do, and it could come through and do that. And it actually said, well, there's no practical minimum, but they sort of suggest 850, and this is based on this other code, which is the FAR code. Oh, sorry, the FAR standard, which is the acceptable solutions group there. So I actually have that one that I went and pulled up just to check on it, and I said, okay then, where in, oh no, it's done that, Z, where in CS, copy that, it is minimum stair width, and what is SM user group, show relevant clauses and pages where the clauses are. So it'll now go through and tell me where that information is. So I can actually go back into the, I'm going to cycle through again, and I will go into the protection from fire and open that up as a PDF. So this is an important part of the process, is that it's suddenly saying are specified on table 3221, relevant clause 3221, and pages 25. And the SM group, where's SM group? Where is SM group explained? Oh, where is SM group explained? And it'll go through and find that. So the other one said page 25. So we can go into there, and I've got a whole load of copies of these ones here. And if we go into there, we can go and find page 25. And it's got a height width of tables, and it actually said, here's this table, 3.221, and it's saying for the SM group, the horizontal open path needs to be 850. So that's where that's coming from. So we can go and look at that 3221 clause. It's further on, I think, or further back, and we can find that information, and we can actually find page number 8 is where we want to go. So if we go into page number 8, that'll tell us about the category 3. So with the FAR code, you have different risks. So if you got people in an office and there's a fire, everybody's awake and everybody can suddenly say, well, there's the nearest exit, I'll go and run over there and get to it. But if you've got people who are sleeping, they're actually unconscious. So if suddenly they wake up and there's a fire, they're going to take a lot longer to react. So therefore the building needs to be stronger at not burning down, so it gives people time to get out, or you actually have to have a lot more exits so that it's easier to get away from those fires. So it has a thing, so it's based where for boarding houses and things like that. You've also got institutional stuff, care detentions and all sorts of things. So there's a whole lot of different subtleties to do with the FAR code on those sorts of things. So it's good to pick up to see whether that actually has the relevance of what I needed on that particular one. And if it did, then I'd drill down and find out a bit more about it. So I find with this, it's very useful to actually get the answer very quickly from using the markdown, and then go and look at the actual specific um, uh, PDF document that I need to see what is in there in case there's a diagram or there's something else that's not being picked up straight away by the markdown. Now, again, when I sort of jump between projects, I might be doing lots of commercial stuff that tend to have different requirements and they tend to be a lot more restrictive for domestic ones. So this was for a particular domestic project, and I wanted to make sure that I was using all the appropriate codes. So I downloaded all the latest ones just because they are revised, 3, 5, 7 years at a time. So that you've got the latest ones, you've got them into there, you can kind of keep them in that project, you've got the latest information, and you can blast through. So this allows, so when the documents are being inspected, it's going to take a quicker time to get things approved if you meet all the criteria than if you've sort of half mixed things up and got it wrong and you've got to do a whole load of clarification. So that's what you need to do. So I found that very useful. Now, the other one where I can see a use case for this as well on a particular project, like I would actually have this one here, which is to do with the building code, and I might actually have another one which is to do with products. So a lot of products that people have, they've either got their websites or they've got PDFs of what they do, and a lot of them, they got a lot of noise in it for the actual technical information that you want. So linking up to a whole lot of particular products or things, like I've got specific water tanks that I've got to do. I've got some other things, so I can then look at the codes and see what the flow rates I actually need for things. I've got other ones that do, with the materials and what sort of guarantees they give and stuff like that. That if you've got those things, you can drill down quite quickly, because I find a lot of the products, they're trying to sell themselves and do a lot of things, but there's a lot of noise at the front. And really, a lot of the time as a designer, you just want to grab the appropriate information for what you're doing. So it's a really good way of getting through technical information that you're having to deal with a lot of time. After a while, you get a little bit more familiar about it, and so you do it. So this is where I see these use cases coming in, it's quite powerful. But again, I think to do it efficiently, I think you need to be able to look through the thing and get a quick answer, because as I'm designing, I've got that question there, and like if I'm drawing the stairs or something, I'll put a note. What is the myth that what are my constraints on those sorts of things? Another one that you might actually have, again, based on something like that. And it's these. It's what is. No, I don't want I don't want to go and look through everything. I just want D1 access. I think I might actually have safety from falling. What is max length of stairs before landing required? For private stairs. And actually, I should have said external private stairs for that particular one. So that will go through and it'll give me so we've got 4 meters max vertical is per thermal. So that's good. And actually, one of the things which I just want to draw your attention to on the previous ones, I was asking one of the things about the minimum stair width, but it also says other issues that you might want to consider. So this is one for stair types, whether it's accessible or common stairway. And if you've got timber treads, then there's this issue. Support for wide stairs. You might need extra supports in the middle so that they don't bounce too much. The handrails, so you can actually get some of the information for that, and slip resistance on the nosing of the stairs. So it's sort of pulling up an extra bit of information. You may have already got that covered, but it's sort of like a good little checklist as well. So I find this as a research tool. It's really, I don't actually think of it as a research tool. I rather see it as a sort of a little buddy that that I've got all of the things here. So instead of leafing through them to find the bit that I want and jumping through them, I can actually just get the quick overview through there, and then I can drill down later just to make sure that when I've actually designed my stuff, it's to the level that I require. So I hope you found that of use. I really just want to give this use case, talk about the Notebook LM, which is a great tool, and also talk about file size, and also talk about how you can convert files from one format and why you should do it. Convert files from one format into the Markdown so that it speeds up the process of what you're actually doing. So I hope you found that useful. If you did, please give a thumbs up. If not, I'll pan your heart.